J.J. McCarthy has decided to go out on top at Michigan. That's right. The starting quarterback of the 15-0 national champion Michigan Wolverines is heading to the NFL draft, which means Michigan needs a new QB1. We still don't know what Michigan's head coaching situation is going to be. So I would imagine that these two situations dovetail. Once we find out more about Jim Harbaugh, we might know more about Michigan's QB situation as well. But even if Jim Harbaugh is leaving for the NFL, which remains a distinct possibility, if Michigan were to promote Sharon Moore, the offensive coordinator who served 4 games as Michigan's acting head coach, you would think that the offense would remain pretty similar and that maybe one of the quarterbacks already on the roster could fill in, or they would know exactly what kind of quarterback they need. If Michigan looks on the roster, you've got Davis Warren, who has not played very much, actually didn't play very much in high school either because of COVID. You've got Alex Orji. Remember, he played Jalen Milroe, the Alabama quarterback, on scout team prior to the Rose Bowl, and you saw Alex Orji in a kind of wildcat situation. There was a package for him in 2023. But the thing is, could Alex Orji develop into your QB1 at Michigan? That's the question. Jaden Denegal still on the roster. Jack Tuttle, the backup from this year, potentially on the roster if he were to get a waiver for another year. But speaking of waivers for another year, there is a guy in the portal that Michigan is very, very familiar with, and that's Talia Tungavailoa, brother of Tua Tungavailoa. Talia played 4 years at Maryland. He's the Big Ten's all-time leading passer now. Because he only played 5 games at Alabama in 2019 before he transferred, he is trying to get a waiver from the NCAA to play another year. The question is whether he's going to get that. It's pretty obvious that Talia is a more valuable college quarterback probably than he is going into the draft. So I would imagine if he can get that waiver, there are quite a few teams that would be very interested in having him be their starting quarterback next year. Michigan probably would be one of those. As far as who else is in the portal, there's not a lot right now. Will Rogers back in the portal. We actually saw him on Monday night before Washington played Michigan for the national title game. So Will Rogers starts 4 years at Mississippi State, enters the portal, decides he's going to play for Washington. He's throwing passes to his former Mississippi State teammate Dylan Johnson, who's a Washington running back. Before the game, he's wearing the jersey, but then Kalen DeBoer leaves to become the head coach at Alabama. And so Will Rogers back in the portal. Now, does he go follow Kalen DeBoer and probably offensive coordinator Ryan Grubb to Alabama? Does he go back to Mississippi State? Does he go somewhere else? We don't know. Other names in the portal, and again, there's not a lot. Jaden DeLora, who started at Washington State and started at Arizona, he was beaten out by Noah Fafita this year at Arizona. Basically, DeLora was the opening day starter. He got hurt. Fafita came in and never gave the job back. So DeLora back in the portal. Now, what's the connection here? DeLora was a high school teammate of Roman Wilson at Michigan, the Michigan receiver. But again, I don't know that that's necessarily what Michigan's looking for. That was a guy who is leaving because he was not going to be the starter at his old place. Lot of balls in the air at Michigan, though, because Harbaugh is the other big question. Lots of NFL jobs open. Do the Raiders want him? Do the Chargers want him? He has said nothing to this point about whether he's coming back, whether he's going. Ward Manuel, the Michigan AD, Santa Ono, the Michigan president, have said they were working very hard at re-signing Jim Harbaugh to another contract that would probably make him the highest paid coach in the Big Ten. But again, there is that NFL itch. Remember, he played in the Super Bowl against his brother, 7 yards short of the goal line in a 5-point game when they turned it over on downs at the end. The itch is probably there, and you've already won a national championship. As for McCarthy, this is an interesting decision because he has a skill set that excites NFL people. You've seen throws that he's made where you're like, yep, I get it. But he did not put up the kind of numbers that just light the world on fire in college. Now, a lot of that was because of the offense they ran at Michigan. They were so good at running the ball. They did not have to throw it a ton. McCarthy didn't have to be Superman. There were times in his career when he was, though. 2022 Ohio State game would be a good example. J.J. McCarthy kept them in that game for a half until they could get the running game going, and then they took over in the second half. And then you look at some of the throws he made in the national championship game, you're like, okay, I get every single thing these NFL guys are saying. This makes perfect sense. But the down-to-down consistency wasn't quite there. But J.J. McCarthy clearly thinks he is ready, and also pretty hard to top what you just did. 15-0 national title, a lot of really good players headed to the NFL. One of those is J.J. McCarthy, and now the unknown gripping Ann Arbor. What's going to happen at quarterback? What's going to happen with Jim Harbaugh? We're going to find out a lot more in the next few days. Thank you so much for watching. Just a reminder, subscribe to this channel right here so you never miss an episode of Andy Staples On 3. And oh, by the way, watch all the other great videos on the On3 Sports YouTube channel.